Let's hear it for the band with Dr. G on the harmonica here. If you don't know me, my name is Dave Mundo. I was part of the family when I wasn't. I'll get more into that later. They always call me Mundo. Life is full of circles. Last time I spoke at a funeral was for Dawn's late husband, Joe. I never thought I'd be here for Dawn. I really expected her to live forever. Sometimes those circles come around and bite you right in the ass.
A little louder, Dave.
Of course, with Joe, I was in a church and I had to tone it down a little. So I still enjoy telling everybody the fact that I stood in church and talked about strippers from the pulpit. I'm glad today I don't have to choose my words carefully. It's a much more fitting way to honor Aunt Dawn. Dawn's family requested that I relay their heartfelt thanks to everyone for their help and support over the past very trying week, and for coming today to help celebrate the life of Dawn Louise. Her passing was made just a little bit easier, knowing how many people's lives she touched and whose lives touched her. She'd be pleased to see everyone here. I want to begin by asking everyone to participate just in a moment of silence in her honor. Kind of reflect on her as a person. Join me in asking that God take her into his arms and guide her to a well-deserved rest and peace, and let her know that she lives on in our hearts and minds. And I'm sure there's a party with some tequila or sambuca thrown in there somewhere. What would it be like without it? Emily Dickinson once wrote, "Hold your parents tenderly, for the world will seem a strange and lonely place when they're gone." I found this to be true. The world is strange without them. But I also found comfort in hoping that they're waiting for me somewhere, having gone before to welcome me when my time comes. I'm a little less afraid of dying. Dawn was born into the Bartlett family during the war years. Our mother and father struggled, as all families did in those days and still do now, to provide a warm place for their children to grow. Dawn at last worked third shift security. Louise worked in a bakery. Both Dawn and Louise were very family-centered, as I can attest to from spending every holiday and countless Sundays with them from the age of 14 or so. They were the central hub of the family. Everyone went there and it was always a memorable good time. Dawn's mother was a Bergeroff, one of the Bergeroff sisters from Hazleton. Marge, Louise, Catherine, Elsie, and Mary. And as anyone who knew them would say, especially Dawn's father, when the Bergeroff sisters got together, look out, you never knew what was going to happen. I remember four of them together one summer when they were sitting in lawn chairs, imbibing in some adult beverages, laughing and poking fun at one another and anyone unfortunate enough to walk past them, especially Dawn's father. Dawn decided he needed to do something about it, and they just happened to be lined up in a perfect row next to a garden hose. He decided to wet them down and then ran like hell. I remember wondering why he ran, because Louise and another sister just sat there and laughed until I noticed the other two were up and ready to kill him because their hair and drinks were wet. Her mother, Louise, was always a loving and laughing person. I can't remember a family get-together that wasn't filled with her laughter, smiles, good food, and good conversation. I bring this all up because I wanted to see what shaped them and the parallels over the generations. It was a mixture of all those personalities. She would laugh, poke fun at herself and others, get into mischief, and loved her family around her, especially at holidays. Just don't ever think of getting her drink wet. As I said, Dawn's mother was a positive type, always seeing the good and fun side of life, while she and her husband quietly dealt with the less fun, negative side. Dawn was not afraid of dealing with the negative side. As hard as she laughed and played, she equally embraced the bad, facing it head-on and loudly. She was given many opportunities to do so in her 68 years. Her LPN career is one example of this. She was determined to complete her training no matter what, and she did. Even though she was a tad older than most students and had been around the block a few times. She made a career out of providing care and wasn't afraid to take on tough assignments. She found ways to keep positive and make a difference in people's lives, and she made some good friends along the way. Along with her ability to face the negative side of life by action, was her equally strong, though often exasperating, ability to say whatever she felt needed to be said to anyone she felt needed to hear it, no matter what the consequences. This could drive you crazy at times, but in retrospect, I can see that she wanted people to be real, face the elephant in the room, so to speak. That she loved and cared about people enough to be open with them, to challenge them, and then to move along. And she did move along. One of the things I loved the most about her was her ability to say what she thought needed saying to you and then drop the subject, sometimes forever. For example, during one of our few serious conversations, she loudly said to me, "Mundo, you're an asshole for divorcing my niece."
Asshole!
I responded, why, yes, I am an asshole. And we must never speak of this again. And we never did. One of her attributes that everyone I've spoken to over the past few weeks has said was that she loved everybody and every animal she met, even though, as Bill mentioned, you might not realize it at first. Once she let you into her circle, there was no way of getting out. That's all there was to it. As my son Ian expressed it, to Aunt Dawn, there were no such thing as trespassers. Everyone was welcome, no matter where she was or what she was doing. I'm proof of that. As we often joked about never being sure whether I got Aunt Dawn in a divorce or she got custody of me. Either way, I checked into Aunt Dawn's Hotel California and could never leave, as evidenced by countless meals, holidays, and parties. And equally countless phone calls and messages to me to stop being an old fart and come out the Millers. I'll always fondly remember how much we laughed when she figured out since I was no longer an in-law, I must be an outlaw. Dawn loved music. Her taste ran from country to classic rock to oldies. She was prone to sing when a good song came on. Loved fast dancing to the Stones, slow dancing to Willie Nelson, and she was never above a little performing every now and then. Apparently, she started performing at an early age. I recently learned that at the age of 5 or so, she was seen stopping at every house on P Street in Hazelton one Halloween, belting out "I'm a Little Teapot" as a duet with her cousin Jane. They had practiced for a whole week to get it perfect. By the way, Jane has promised to give a repeat performance of the song about a half a bottle from now for anyone interested.
Thank you, Dave.
More recently, Dawn expanded her repertoire to include karaoke, although she had to add her own touch, to slightly changing the lyrics to suit the moment. Who can ever forget her lilting version of Bob Dylan's classic, "Knock, knock, knocking on Mundo's door"? Or the equally toe-tapping strains of John Fogerty's "Let Me In, Coach, I'm Ready to Play," with her refrain of "Look at me, I can be a centerfold." I'm told that I was in one performance when in a blacked-out yet apparently functioning tequila stupor at her and Bill's wedding party. We lined up hanging on to each other and belted out "You Are My Sunshine," which I don't recall and would have to have been in a stupor to sing. Dawn had something of a gift for one-liners, both outright jokes and zingers to make you pay attention, get a message across, or just think a bit. For instance, once while camping in Virginia with her husband Joe, son Willie, and my 2 kids in tow, another thing I'll always be grateful to her for, she always had room for my kids on vacation. The weather wasn't so great, and her husband was a little grumpy and started picking on my son when he struggled to land what should have been a giant fish, which turned out to be a feisty old poop. Don retorted with, "Did anybody else catch anything?" Which effectively took all the fun out of laughing at my son. Another time, and this goes back to my telling stripper stories in church at Joe's funeral. I like to call this the other half of the stripper story. It involved their summing up our stupidity in one quick line. So let me back up a bit, and I'll give you a shortened version of the stripper story. Dawn and her niece, my spouse at the time, went to see a male strip show. They came home all starry-eyed and flushed, clutching T-shirt that said, "Thanks for coming." And it's told to be you, not an O, by the way. And as Joe and I discussed later, wouldn't even put out residuals, close their eyes, and pretend we were the stripper's crazy monkey sex. For a while, I was content to look hurt and be mad at my spouse and hide her T-shirt in a hollow in a wicker elephant side table in her bedroom. But that didn't make me feel better. Actually, I remember burning that table, and I hope the shirt was still in it. Anyway, Joe and I mustered up what little pride we had, and we went on a quest to find the perfect female stripper show to come home to our spouses and give them the same treatment. We were determined to bring them to their knees with jealousy and regret for ever going to that show. We invited a third guy along, as he was good company and generally stayed sober enough to drive, and he made a hell of a late-night omelet. Needless to say, after several attempts at various strip joints in the area, we gave up. We couldn't find any strippers out there we wanted anything to do with, no less one capable of making our wives envious. confessed this to Dawn one night at a party. Without even blinking, she retorted, "I'd expect to have any luck at a strip joint when you went there with a gay guy. The girls probably thought all three of you were gay." What? And eyed each other suspiciously until Joe said he wasn't gay. I said I wasn't gay. Then we remember the third guy put rosemary and thyme in those omelets. A dead giveaway. Underwear was just the right amount of starch. The actual truth was more like I was overweight and losing hair. Joe was overweight and hairy. And the third guy, God rest his soul, was overweight and hairy and wore his pants like up to his chest with his shirt tucked in like Steve Urkel. Then like the cowardly lion from Wizard of Oz, he was gay. And we were lucky the strippers didn't pay us to leave. I loved to party. Any excuse her for no reason. She's always ready for a good time. And I do mean a good time. The focus on partying was to enjoy yourself, not get serious for a few hours. I can't remember every time we got together, but there always had to be a theme for the party. There were normal themes like birthdays and holidays, and she threw me a party when I graduated from college. A surprise for which I will be forever grateful. Most occasions were just because it was the weekend and there was booze around and we didn't need an excuse, so party on, dudes. Party we did, always laughing, always finding some random theme to define the party and make fun of for the rest of the night. I'm sure most of the themes made no sense, but that was the point. Party like there's no tomorrow and laugh your ass off. Who cares what the world thinks? These themes would just come randomly when we start talking and all of a sudden find something that cracked us up. We didn't plan them, just let them happen. For instance, once at my house we were eating shrimp cocktail and must have extra cash around because shrimp wasn't normally on the menu. The conversation degraded, which it always seemed to do. In this case, I mentioned I wish I was hung as big as the shrimp. I proceeded to stick one of the cold little appetizers in the zipper of my pants and attempted to dry hump both Dawn and Joe's arms. Until Dawn grabbed the shrimp and yelled, "You get away from me, that shrimp, you dick." My response was, "No, you get away from my shrimp dick." We laughed about that for hours, and the theme for that party was the night shrimp dick came to town. Another time we were at daughter Kim's first house in the valley, and I went outside to relieve myself of some beer. In a short backyard with a steep drop-off where I decided it was a good place to do the deed. Stumbled over, started, and promptly fell down the hill. Normally, this would have been enough to make us hysterical for a while. But we were talking about conspiracy theories before I went out. So I went in and told them I was pissing and fell down the hill. But that strange thing is I seemed to get down the hill faster than my pee stream. I went at the bottom and then got peed on. I first thought I'd either teleported down Star Trek style, or somehow managed to fall down faster than the speed of piss. Or that there was some magic pee bullet. And an eyewitness reported looking toward the grassy knoll to the left of the house and seeing a puff of steam, which could only mean one thing. There had to have been a second pisser. We went off on this for hours. We drew diagrams. We revisited the scene of the crime several times, which I did. We went looking for film clips, which we finally settled for a hastily drawn napkin flip book of stick figures, which we poured over frame by frame. And we laughed our heads off. And that party's theme became the night the second pisser came to town. Another time, Don and Bill went to visit cousin Janie and her Bill in New Hampshire, driving all night to get there by 8 a.m., hoping for a cup of coffee, but finding yourself quickly into a half a bottle of Sambuca. The combination of tiredness and booze and the AM was perfect for random silliness, and so thank God we're out of the state in mayhem. Girls decided it would be great to do some drunken yard sailing, something I've never tried, but which I hear can be pretty fun unless there's some sober police happening by. Jane tells me they bought hooker outfits at one house and 2 frogs at another. I'll get to the frogs in a minute. They brought their treasures home, and their spouses were sent on an errand to get bread so they could surprise them with their new outfits when they got back. One can only imagine what the 2 Bills thought when they opened the door to find Don and Janie in 2 way too small and skimpy outfits trying to look seriously slinky whilst inebriated and laughing their heads off. I hear there's a photo of this somewhere here today. So we're going to go check it out. By the way, Janie's also offered to model her hooker outfit about a half a bottle after she knows I'm a little teapot.
Will you stop picking on me?
No!
Probably not.
You move here.
Somebody has to do it.
Yeah.
Now to the
You were
frogs.
there.
To the frogs. This cracks me up as it so typifies Don's warped sense of humor and the ability to come up with random silliness and run with it for hours. They purchased the frogs, live ones, mind you, from a little girl promising they were going to a good home. Their real plan was to take them home and have their two husbands kiss the frogs, hoping that both bills would turn into handsome, rich princes and solve all their problems. Shane says he went on for hours about how different their lives would be married to two charming princes. Unfortunately, it didn't work. Had I been there, I would have told them, of course it wouldn't work. Frogs never work. You're better off sticking with shrimp. The final theme party I want to tell you about it is a family favorite, from what we've all agreed was the best New Year's Eve party ever. We were at Son Michael's house for New Year's a few years back, and after a suitable amount of alcohol was consumed, we found ourselves talking about great holiday traditions and how we needed one. We quickly discarded a good old-fashioned virgin sacrifice, as we knew no virgins. We then spent hundreds of seconds, which is a long time when you're shit-faced and there's music and Michelle is begging you to dance because Willie doesn't want us. And the glass is always empty for some reason, and people keep asking you why the pin on your shirt says, "I'm just funner." So we settled on what would become the first annual Nescafec pickle drop. We found a huge pickle, an even bigger pin in some sort of fishing pole, attaching the pin to the pole and the pickle to the pin. We had a designated pickle dropper, the DPD, if you will. Sitting out of an upstairs window with the job of slowly lowering the pickle until midnight was reached simultaneously with the pickle dropping into the open mouth of the queen of the pickle drop, or QPD. The timing had to be ridiculous. Of course, I knew it would be designated as the queen of the pickle drop as soon as we came up with the idea, and I went running over to Dawn with the news. I could only imagine the delight on her face when I explained to her how poor Nescafeckers had been sorely lacking in queens, at least the royal kind, for the last 200 years. And she had the honor of winning the crown this year, and the duties were simple. All she had to do was come outside, stand under the window, close her eyes, and look up with her mouth open. She was sitting at a table with a bunch of her female family members, and I announced that the votes were counted and we had elected a new queen. I paused to look around the room for effect. Dawn somehow had the idea it was going to be her, especially when I mentioned the open-mouth pickle recipient party. She just threw up her hands and said, "How did I know it happened to be me?" Trooper that she was, she accepted the crown and performed her duties flawlessly, completely biting the pickle in half, wiping her chin, and then giving me a stare that made me turn away and cover up shrimp dick forever, just in case she had any ideas about an appetizer. As it turns out, there was never a second annual Nescafec pickle drop. So I've heard rumors of a fringe group of hick farmers out there trying to organize something with kumquats. I'll always treasure those moments of silliness and laughter with Dawn. I think what I loved the most about her was that for some unknown reason, she got me. She understood and shared my sense of humor and desire to have fun when the mood struck. I will miss that. Some of the things her family wants to remember her for are shopping. Dawn loves to shop. You could bump into her anywhere. People. She really loved people. You would never know what new friends would be showing up at the pavilion. No one's ever turned away. She always seemed to look for the good in everyone. She put judgments aside to maintain a friendship. She was especially there for anyone who needed help. Her computer. She loved the thing. I remember her laughing for hours every night when we would hook up on ICQ a long time ago, making up fake names and identities for me to pick up hot chicks all over the world. And she helped me become Derek, the oil rig worker in the Gulf of Mexico. For a gynecologist named Biff, which everyone knows is Biff spelled backwards. I remember rolling when I tried to get her friend from Sweden to come over and prove to me that she wasn't a lesbian. While also trying to get her friend from the Carolinas to come up and meet me for some raucous sex involving electric kitchen appliances. Our love of communication by computer is family's legend. Not only her sharing on Facebook, but her friendship with Anna in Sweden and others online. People should only spend social network time with, but who came to meet her in person. And newsflash, Anna never did prove to me that she wasn't a lesbian. And the Carolina lady ran away when I plugged in my electric mixer. Go figure. Animals. What can I say? She loved animals. I can't figure out how to live with one dog, and she kept whole bunches of them. And cats, including rescue animals. We tried to list all the animals in her life by name, but there were too many of them. She loved children. Hers, her grandchildren, her nieces and nephews, her great nieces and nephews. She loved being surrounded by them, even taking them on what could have been quiet vacations, no matter what her spouse may have thought. She was always always there for them. She would once loaded them up in her car and took them to a Steppenwolf concert at $4 a carload. She had to have been the inspiration for their song, Born to Be Wild. She was protective of her children, something she showed before she had children of her own. Her niece Debbie related a time when she was about 5, Dawn was about 15, and Dawn took her to the pool at Angela Park. Dawn had put Debbie's swim ring on and told her to go into the pool while she sat and got some sun, not intending to get wet that day. Some young guy. Most likely trying to get points with Dawn, chose stupidly, as most males do at that age or any age, to get her attention by picking up Debbie and threatening to throw her in the deep end of the pool. Dawn jumped into the pool before he could do it to make sure that she was there just in case he actually went through with it. I can only imagine the yelling at that poor idiot got from her that day. Her children particularly appreciated her wealth of knowledge, the kind that comes from experiencing both good and bad things in life, and learning from both. She was always willing to share that knowledge. She liked to play horseshoes. Michael will never forget the time she was losing 17 to nothing, yet managed to come back and beat him. Willie's fondest memory was being at Miller's last year with a band of 20-something-year-olds playing more modern music. Tina's mother was there, and so was Dr. Gorski. He says he'll never forget the night he danced to new music with his 66-year-old mother and Dr. Gorski. Daughter Krista says she'll never forget her wanting to be called Honey instead of Grandma, yet she called everyone she talked to Honey. And she will never forget sharing purses, or as I like to call it, Aunt Dawn's purse snatching episode. I'll never forget her throwing Uncle Joe's birthday pie on the floor at his feet when he failed to come home for a surprise birthday party. Not in anger, she was making a point. Her late sister's family remembers how she stepped up for them after their mother passed away. She became the family matriarch, and I believe everyone agrees she did a good job. Everyone would also agree that she was the poster girl. Everyone would also agree that she was the poster girl for staying forever young. No one could ever accuse her of getting old. It just wasn't going to happen. Her spirit and love for life kept going strong way past the age when a lot of us have too much trouble just trying to have a good bowel movement. No less being able to party till you throw up and then continue partying like she did on her 60th birthday. Her husband Bill asked me to let everyone know that he was a little flighty when he met Dawn. His life had little direction until she helped him. He said she was the best woman he ever met. She changed him forever, made him better. She was his rock. She studied him, and he was amazed at how much she loved him and how much he loved her. She never judged, and she kept her family together. I struggled this week, trying to boil down how I feel about Dawn's passing into one word, something that would describe what she was to me and what would be missing with her passing. Thought about a class I taught once where we were going over the poem, How Do I Love Thee? Let Me Count the Ways. One line is, I love thee to the depth and breadth, yada, 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 of life's quietest need. I asked the class to tell me what they thought life's quietest need was. I received replies like water, food, and air. I pointed out those weren't quiet needs. Try not eating for a while and see how quiet your stomach is. Finally, one student raised her hand and said she thought it was salt, because you need it sometimes. You can't live without it. Pretty sophisticated thinking for a high school special ed student. I love salt. Put it on everything, even ham. I can't get enough. If the doctor ever told me I had to give up salt, I'd probably give up the doctor. Everyone knows how salt stings when it's rubbed. And everyone knows how salt stings when rubbed in an open cut. There was my word, salt. Dawn was like salt, good salt. Like when used in cooking to boost something up, to add flavor to a dish that would otherwise be bland and tasteless, and bring the joy out of something flat. And she was known to put some salt in open cuts on occasion. When Dawn died, the world became a lot less salty, and I'll miss her for that. Her family will surely miss her. The sorrow shows in their eyes. I wish for them comfort in realizing that they would not be feeling such deep sorrow if they hadn't first experienced a deeper amount of joy from Dawn. The joy was there first. Find it, hold on to it, and praise it tenderly for the gift it was. The gift of your wife, your mother, your grandmother, your aunt, your cousin, your good friend. The gift of life and her love. Farewell, Dawn. Rest in peace. Now I plan on downing half a bottle of tequila while watching Jane do I'm a Little Teapot, complete her hooker outfit, and I'll be looking for some shrimp.